This video brought to you in part by these fantastic Patreons. Hey guys, what is up and welcome to the channel. I am the Shotgun Shogun and this is the Shotgun Shogun podcast number 3 because I haven't come up with a better name for the podcast and I couldn't find a wiki on how to name your podcast. So there you go. It's Shotgun Shogun podcast number 3. I am joined by Greg Sama from the Facebook USA Fate Grand Order Facebook group, probably one of the biggest Facebook Grand Order groups, I believe, right, Greg?
Hey guys, it is the second biggest in the English community.
Okay, second biggest in the English community, but the biggest one that I am subscribed to, which I'm still not going to tell you who I am so that I can just shit post about myself every once in a while because I have a lot of fun doing that. But anyways, Greg, go ahead, introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Well, I run the FGO USA Facebook group. I'm the quote-unquote president, I guess. And I have a lot of fun doing it. It's pretty nice to interact with the community and see all those memes and stuff.
Hey, you know what? At least unlike other Fate Grand Order Facebook groups, you don't steal all of your memes either. So very good. You know, one of the things that I tell people about the reason why I created a Discord was to crowdsource lewds and memes. So you could just create a Facebook group to crowdsource lewds and memes as well, because you know, once you get to a certain size, everybody else is going to post them for you. Boom, easy peasy. You don't have to go anywhere. People just bring those to you.
That's fair.
Yeah. So all right, so something that, you know, I usually start off with, how did you get into Fate and when did you get into Fate?
It was a while back. It was actually in high school. A friend's friend told him about the series, and because we watched a lot of anime together, we ended up watching all of it together, even Apocrypha and Last Encore.
Okay, so you got in with the anime, not necessarily like the visual novels, anything like that. Yeah. Have you gone back and done any of the visual novels? Have you consumed any of the outside of the norm material?
No, I'm pretty much a filthy secondary, but I have read the sex scenes from the visual novel because I thought those were hilarious.
Dude, they are hilarious. The writing in that, and well, probably mostly the translation, were so glorious. So many memes. Slaps roof of visual novels. You can fit so many memes into those sex scenes. Yeah, they were pretty A plus. How hype are you though for the waiver anime, the Case Files anime coming out, since you are quote unquote the real life adaptation of Waiver?
I haven't read much of the series, but I really liked episode 0. There were some pretty good memes from that, and I like Gray as a character. I'm pretty interested in her.
Yes, Gray Servant when? I mean, it'd be on JP, and then we would have to wait for 2 years, just sitting there like, oh man, when is this coming to NA? Is Shogun going to make a video about how he's going to complain that he can't get this servant right now? Answer would be probably yes, but no, that's cool. And a lot of people that I meet, especially like now that are into Fate, really got into it with the anime, or you know, they've got a friend of a friend that played the game, and now all of a sudden they're like, okay, cool, which way do I go through this? It's real hard for a lot of people too to get back and go play the visual novels unless it's just for the memes, because I mean, that stuff is older than some of the people who play Fate Grand Order or watch the anime as it is anyways. So, you know, totally understand that. And I mean, I'm right there with you. I'm pretty much a dirty secondary. A lot of the you know, auxiliary information that I get is just from me going, I wonder who this character is that's on this CE, and then hitting the internet, and then like 4 hours later I'm into like some forum somewhere learning who would win in a fight between like, you know, true Archer Herc versus like Gilgamesh for like hours. So that's a lot of how I get I get my information. So, next question: did you play JP, or have you been NA the whole time?
I started on NA day one. I stayed up the whole night playing it with that friend. I didn't even know about FGO until the NA version had already been announced, so I just waited. But I did start playing JP recently.
Oh, nice. Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, pretty much the same deal. A lot of people ask me if, oh, hey, have you, did you play JP beforehand? Did you even know that existed? I really didn't. As a matter of fact, like, unless you are hardcore into like the gacha mobile game sphere, it's really not that easy to find information about like gacha games from like JP or China, because JP really doesn't spend much time promoting it in North America, because why would they? That's not really their user base. So once NA came out, I was like, or once it was even announced, I was like, oh, holy crap, this is a thing. I have to go look it up. Unfortunately, I have invested way too much money to ever play JP, because I would feel like, well, I'm not giving the same amount of attention to my NA account, which is, the price of a car, not like a cheap car either. So, but I have heard that people who do go and switch over to JP have a lot of fun, just because you have access to more 2 years worth of things that you don't have on NA. So how do you deal with not being able to read it? Unless you know Japanese very well, in which case, that probably works out well for you.
Oh, I have no idea. I really the only real stories that I've cared about on NA have been the events or Babylonia.
Mm.
So not reading the story is not a huge issue for me, and I just click buttons until something works for me.
Fair enough. I will say one of my favorite posts in the Facebook group are the people who go and play JP and then post constantly like, how do you do this shit? What is this? I don't even know how to do this. Like, what am I doing in this quest? Can anybody help me? Why can't I kill this guy? It's like, man, sure would be good if you could read that. You'd probably skip through everything anyways and still ask those questions, even if you could read it in English. But yeah, no, like I do really enjoy the story. I do skip through it, and then after I get some time, like my AP's out, I'll just go through and watch like the whole thing.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's kind of visual novelty, but I mean, you got to do something in that, like, outside of the 15 minutes a day that it takes to burn all of your AP. And then it's like, oh, I'm going to do it the rest of my day, play 7 gacha games and read this story. But, yeah, so those are pretty fun Facebook posts. And then it's just like somebody will chime in and be like, oh, was this? And it's like, well, that was pretty simple, but yeah, definitely can't read it. The other thing too, like, that would be hard for me would be that I'm so used to like how certain things are, that I know there's like updated UI things and stuff like that in JP. So at the beginning, until I figured it out, probably would be a little difficult to know what buttons to push. But
Yeah.
as a JP player, though, how do you feel about not having access to any potential servants that may or may not ever come back into the game?
Well, they've been pretty good about doing revival events now. We got Prisma Ilia, which everybody said would never happen.
Right.
So I'm feeling pretty good about potentially getting some of those back, but I'm not holding very high hopes for CCC in particular.
Yeah. I mean, well, the thing is, though, is, like you said, that people said Prisma Ilia would never come back. Maybe they'll be like, oh, well, we did Prisma Ilia, we did Fate Zero, throw them CCC when we need to kill some time. So, or I mean, I don't know that they'll ever have anything to tie back into that, but if they ever do, be like, boom, here you go, here's CCC, we need to delay you guys for another like month. So that would be a potential. But like my thing too is what about, some of the like welfare servants? Like, I mean, the other thing too is, what do you think about having maybe a third run of things? Because if you think about it, no one's ever going to be able to get Assassin Shiki now. No one will ever be able to get, well, on JP anyways, we'll get a rerun obviously, but after that rerun, Assassin Shiki's out of the game. No one can get Caster Liz right now. No one can get Saber Alter Rider. And one of the things that I bring up with people is that it seems that's kind of crappy for somebody who maybe didn't know about the game, a year and a half ago. They just picked it up today because a friend of a friend, and now they don't have access to those things. Like, how do you feel about that type of stuff?
I agree with you that does kind of de-incentivize new players because, I mean, they're going to miss out. I would personally enjoy a third run. Or maybe they could do something specific, like you pay some mana prisms or some rare prisms or whatever, and you get a welfare servant that way.
Yeah, and that's actually something I brought up. I think I was talking to Ludes TV about that. Is that, right now the Mana Prism Rare Prism shop is very lackluster. You really don't get a whole lot out of it. Mana Prism wise, you come in, you pull through everything that you get, a month, and then you're done with it. And then lottery box events, it's always Mana Prism, Mana Prism, Mana Prism. And I know you save up for things like, Chaldea Lunchtime, the Da Vinci CE, but once you have those, it's like, okay, as long as you maintain your monthly spend of Mana Prisms, you don't really have anything outside of that. And having that Rare Prism or just Mana Prisms in general would also incentivize people to maybe whale a little bit more, because if they're like, hey, I really want Assassin Shiki, but I have to get a rare Mana Prism, maybe I'll dump a little bit of cash into this next banner, and then if I need to burn, a Fion to get it, then, the sacrifice is 100% worth it. But, the possibilities of them implementing that is pretty low, just because of the fact that, one, it'd be 2 years in the future, but two, they seem pretty stuck in their ways in terms of changing the game, like in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah. I loved the command code idea, but it's not like they had to really change or improve. Well, they did improve upon a game mechanic, but they didn't have to really change a system to do it. They weren't sacrificing anything. They weren't making something easier or something harder.
Yeah, now one of the things that I've seen mentioned before, and I think this was in the Nasu is quitting and FGO is shutting down debacle, that everybody was upset and like said the sky was falling. But in that interview, it was mentioned that Fate Grand Order now is kind of ran on pretty old code, because they can't just like completely overhaul it. I wonder if like things like that will actually hinder the ability to implement these new things in the future, and whether or not we'll ever get them at the same time. Just because from what I understand, and I've talked to a couple of people who play JP and keep up with it, but apparently like the JP players get really, really anal over what other countries get, regardless of like the fact that they're like 2 years in the future. So I forget who it was I was talking to, but there was apparently a like Karna rate up banner that came out earlier than it should have, and it was essentially a solo Karna rate up banner. And I guess JP complained a bunch, because at the time it was supposed to be like a 2 5-star rate up banner, and they ended up like changing it. But that could also be the fact that that was the Korean version, and Japan and Korea don't have like the greatest of relationships, so I don't know if that's a thing. But yeah, that was just a weird story that somebody told me. Do you ever see that? Do you ever see like JP players being like very upset about what NA is getting?
I have not seen a lot of JP players get upset about it, but I will say that I have seen some comments like that. I've also seen some comments saying, "When are we getting the back button?" And I'm pretty sure Albert mentioned it had to do with the code, that it just wouldn't support the back button at this time, so they had to wait or something.
Yeah, no, that was something that was brought up at Anime NYC, was that a lot of specific quality of life things are tied to specific builds. Now, I mean, my question is why don't you just give us a newer build? Like, what is it holding back that like they couldn't just like click a button and say, okay, CCC is enabled, okay, this is enabled. But then again, I'm also not a developer, so I don't know the intricacies of that. But yeah, no, there's definitely things build wise that they can't give us. I think that they're actually going to save the back button for the anniversary this year, because we've already gotten a lot of the stuff that we would get this anniversary. So I think that they're just going to be like, oh, and the back button, and everyone is going to piss their pants with joy, and everything that DW has ever done wrong will be washed away by the back button. Like, that is my theory.
I can see that happening.
They could literally sacrifice a puppy on stage at AX, and then they'd be like, everyone would be like, "Oh my god, what are you doing?" They'd be like, "And back button." And they'd be like, "Absolutely love everything that you've ever done. You guys are the greatest." But more costumes when? Where's my 20 Saint Courts? Because as soon as we get the back button, somebody's going to complain about something else, and I mean, I'm sure that, you see that on a regular basis. I can't actually fathom the amount of like moderated posts that you guys have to see, that you're just like, I can't believe somebody wrote this. Like, how dumb is this? But speaking of the Facebook, how did you come to head up one of the second largest Facebook community for Fate Grand Order?
Well, I actually joined when they were looking for moderators. It was around 4,000 members at the time. I just applied. I mentioned that I didn't play JP, which I really thought they wouldn't accept me because of that, but lo and behold, they did.
And now you are Greg Sama. You have memes about you, and you are the head of this. That is such a rise to power. But what are some of the struggles that you have of managing that many people in a Facebook group?
Realistically, I think the biggest struggle is Facebook itself. There are many rules and policies that we have to follow, both to protect the group and the members in it. And some of those are pretty reasonable. Like, we don't want to see dead puppies in the group. But also some of them are pretty unreasonable. Like, somebody jokingly calling somebody something stupid or something, we got to take it down or it'll get reported for hate speech or something.
Oh yeah, no, I've definitely heard about things like that, and that's actually one of the things with like my Discord group, is that people, it is a little over moderated. That's fine, but I like to keep the peace in there. But the thing is like Discord too has terms of service that they update on like a fairly regular basis, and one person who wants to report your Discord server and like cause a stink about it could easily get your whole Discord server or your Facebook group just zucked. You're just done, and then all of that work that you put in is you've got to start over from scratch. So definitely understand the struggle of the platform being the hardest thing to managing a large group. So, but you guys do pretty well. You do have a pretty decent amount of mods that are fairly active. So definitely you seem like you have some help and some backup on that. So
yeah, if it wasn't for code, I would forget the rules.
Yeah, that's okay. I forget the rules of my own Discord server sometimes, and then I'll go into into a chat, and I'll just be like, "Oh, boom, this, and this," and then somebody will be like, "Hey, Shogun, you know that you aren't supposed to do that. It's your server and all, but you're probably, setting a bad example for other people." And then I'm like, "Oh, that's right, my bad." But let's get on to the most important question of this podcast. Who's your waifu?
Ereshkigal Gale. All the Rin faces are great, but Ereshkigal Gale has a better personality.
I will absolutely agree with you. I heard that you had a hard time with Ishtar, though.
Yes, I spent a few SQ on her, and she did not come home.
Well, I mean, you've got other chances in the future, but are you just straight saving for Aresh this year?
I'm gonna roll a little bit for MHXA, and then I'm just gonna save everything for Erish.
Fair enough. Nothing on the summer banners, because those things are very tempting.
I know. Maybe a few tickets, but that'd be it.
See, just don't go down the path that I did, where you just start whaling, because once you start, it's just super easy to justify. You're like, well, I already spent this much, so I guess like rolling on every banner is perfectly fine. But I have found really good ways to cook ramen to make it very delicious. So we're yeah. But no, definitely Aresh is a super solid waifu pickup. So I'm gonna say that was like actually one of my next questions. What's your most anticipated servant of 2019? But I would assume that is going to be Aresh. So boom, 2 questions, 1 answer, pretty easy. So on to what we were talking about, like with the back button stuff like that. If you could see one improvement implemented to the game, what would it be? This could be JP or NA, just something you would like to see in the game to improve it in general.
Well, aside from the obvious increased drop rates that everybody wants, I think combination NPs would be amazing.
Yes, I completely agree with you. That was something that I also talked to Ludes TV about, because I think that would actually add a lot of synergy to the game. Whereas like right now, you just slap a support, a star gen, and a DPS. Like that's team comp really in general is kind of not that in depth in Fate Grand Order. Like it is, but it isn't. Like it's cool to do like low star stuff, but usually you can just slap a star gen DPS and a support in a group and you're perfectly fine. Whereas like in some other games, it's like you have to, if you have this servant and this servant, they do a combination thing, or they increase each other's stats or something like that. That would be the combination NP2 would be really good from a business financial standpoint for DW Aniplex as well, because if you think about it, if you've got a combination between Aresh and Ishtar, let's say you have Aresh and an Ishtar banner comes up, you're going to be like, holy crap, I need to get Ishtar, because if I do, then I've got this cool combination NP that they can do. Or even if it's just graphical wise, like let's say it just still does literally the same thing, but it looks way cooler. I mean, people will justify money for things that look cool. Trust me, I know. I've got almost every skin in Azure Lane just because they look cool. But yeah, that would be super sick. But again, it's one of those things where it's like, I don't know if the code would ever allow it, but fingers crossed that one day they either just overhaul all of the code like randomly, or we potentially get Fate Grand Order 2. But I don't know how they would handle that either. So, but I agree with you there. That is one of the improvements that I would love to see in the game. Yes, outside of increased drop rates. So now, next question would be, what historical figure would you like to see adapted to a Fate character, and would they be a gender bent loli?
If I had to pick one to be a gender bent loli, I would say George Washington. I do not accept Thomas Edison as the president. I do not accept that. So I would like George Washington, please.
Has anybody ever done fan art of gender bent loli George Washington? I would almost guarantee it's out there somewhere, but I don't know that I've ever searched it. So if anybody watching this has ever seen that, please just link it to me in Discord or in the comments, because that is a thing that I didn't know that I needed to see in my life, but now I kind of do.
I mean, there's always DeviantArt.
That's true, and it gets that name for a reason. So, no, dude, that's pretty cool. I didn't actually think of that one. You kind of caught me off guard there, but so how do you feel about the Overlord memes that have sprung up about you?
Well, at first I was really caught off guard. It all started because I was back when OOT days weren't a thing, and I was sharing Overlord memes because the latest episode had come out. And I was giving my thoughts about it. Somebody just commented Sasuga Greg-sama, and then 2 people made a meme about it, and it became this whole thing.
Dude, it was good, and I remember those days because everyone's like, "Wait, I thought this was a Fate group," and you're just like, yeah, no, this is Overlord posting right now. And I mean, probably one of my favorite animes in a long time as well. So definitely A+ taste on that one. But yeah, no, I remember seeing those and I was just like, man, this is hilarious. And then I remember somebody posted something on one of my videos in the comments, and I think I was using Waiver or something like that, and they're like, they said something about Greg, and I was just like, Sasuga Greg-sama, and then literally like an hour later I'm scrolling through Facebook and I see some like I'm scrolling through and it's just like, oh, here's a screenshot from my video, and they're like, oh, Shotgun Shogun's a Greg fan, and I'm just like, wow, that traveled really quick. But yeah, no, I definitely thought that was pretty funny. So yeah, and I like that the fan arts of you as Waiver are pretty good too. So it's pretty interesting the things that the group does, in terms of like internal memes as well.
Yeah, we've had some pretty great internal memes, from Gotcha to, I guess, OOT now, the Civil War.
Yeah, the Civil War was actually pretty good. I remember when I first made that first State of NA video. I like right after that I went to a big anime convention, Colossal Con, up in Sandusky, Ohio, and so I was like, I saw people dressed up as Fate Grand Order characters and stuff like that, so I'm talking to them and stuff like, and I'd be like, oh, what server do you play on? They're like, oh, North America, and I'm like, how do you feel about North America? Trying to feel it out before I was like, oh yeah, I'm that guy. And it was kind of interesting to see like the responses between people that are like, oh yeah, screw Shotgun Shogun, he's super stupid and his video's dumb, and then other people that are like, yeah, no, I agree with that. And so I was incognito there as well. But yeah, sorry about all those posts. Anytime, I actually was talking to Pheno Plays yesterday about it, because I want to do a larger like round table type of podcast with a couple of other content creators to talk about like upcoming stuff, how we feel about it, things like that. And I was like, what would be hilarious, is if I named the podcast the State of NA Podcast, because people would just get super triggered as soon as they saw the name without even watching any of the video, and then they would immediately go to Facebook and there would be 50 threads about how I made another video. And So I enjoyed reading all of those threads and about how terrible I am. So,
Well, it's always good if you can laugh at yourself.
100%. And you know, I mean, that's I mean, I laugh at myself all the time. I make jokes about you know, me reading the wiki, obviously, at the beginning of the podcast. The thing is I feel like with any, you know, content creation, any just so media person, I mean, yourself included, people will take anything that you say, and a lot of times they'll take it out of context. Like, I know that, you know, with you and Facebook, you don't really post like too much like controversial stuff. It's a lot of, you know, just regular posts and stuff like that. But I thought it was interesting when what was it, a couple of weeks ago, when I got that screen cap from the group on the YouTuber poll thing. And I actually didn't take that myself. Somebody did send that to me. I saw your comment where you're like, oh, if I was going to do that, I'd say somebody sent it too. But I actually did get it sent to me from somebody. But you know, it's interesting how, as a public person, and I feel like you're a public person too, you know, that a lot of the things that we say and do are kind of carried out and you know, kind of not really trumpeted, but, you know, people will take things that we say a little bit more heavy than just some random shit poster in a Facebook group. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's partly why I've always tried to avoid posting controversial things on my private Facebook, even, or in the group. I mean, I did share the NAJP EMEA alter difference thing, but
you know what, on that one, I actually, so as much as I dislike censorship in general, I was really upset that Don Machi did that with their censorship. Huge proponent of just things being uncensored. I actually think that the new EMEA alter looks a bit better, because it seemed like the previous EMEA alter, they're just like, hey, make EMEA alter a black dude instead of just being an alter. And so I feel like the new EMEA alter feels more alter to me than the previous one, because I mean, the first time I saw him, I'm like, who is that? And they're like, oh, that's EMEA alter. I'm like, was that dude? That dude doesn't look anything like EMEA. Like, I mean, kind of, I guess I can kind of see it. I mean, he's still badass, you know, and he's got the guns and pew pew and all that stuff. But I think that the new one is a bit better. And I know that they were trying to do that to avoid controversy, anything like that. But I actually applaud that decision, not from a censorship standpoint, but I actually think that the art is a bit better.
Yeah, I have to agree, because his original NJP looks like Mr. Popo.
Yeah. Yeah.
I appreciate the change with his lips and his facial features a little to make him actually look more like EMEA.
Right.
I think the skin tone change was pretty unnecessary, but he looks more like regular EMEA. So, I mean.
A little bit, yeah. I mean, really, like, for me, like, alters should just be edgy versions of their original character, you know. And like you said, yeah, the original EMEA alter was, you know, kind of Mr. Popo. And you know, I try to explain to people, I'm like, you know, Japanese people are very, very not super liberal and up with progressive times. So when they make choices like that, there's probably a reason, and it's not the bastion of freedom that everybody thinks that it is. You know, because I've been over there a couple of times and I've seen, you know, how they treat foreigners and stuff like that firsthand. So, you know, not bashing on any JP people, but, you know, it's definitely there and they agree with it too. So, but, you know, it is kind of difficult because, you know, literally anything that you say or do as a public person, like, especially, like, I'm very, my Facebook is very locked behind a lot of doors, because I don't want any of my dog memes or shit posts, to reflect on myself. So I use Twitter to shitpost. So the other thing too is I don't want people to find out where I live and come to my house, because that would be really awkward. But
Yeah.
outside of that, a lot of stuff that we would say can definitely be taken out of context, and you kind of do have to watch what you say here and there, unless you really just don't care and you just make jokes about whatever anybody gets upset about, which is kind of what I've been doing. So, but I will try in the future to not cause you headaches in your group. So
I appreciate it.
But all right, cool, man. We have been talking for a little while, and I have some stuff I got to get to. So, any last thoughts? Anything that you want to throw out there?
I will say another difficulty I have about the group is getting people to vote or see the rule changes and stuff. So just let me say, it's in the announcements. Always check the announcements. There's pretty much a new one every week.
Yeah, actually, like, I have a hard time with that, because Facebook's algorithms will be like, hey, you wanted to see that announcement? No, here is another picture of Maeve. Because for some reason, everybody wants to post Maeve, because it either you get a whole bunch of pictures, or you get a whole bunch of people being like, man, I hate Maeve. Let me post about how much I hate Maeve. So it is a little bit difficult, because Facebook really sucks for showing you things that are important.
Yeah, some weird bug just happened with our badges or something for members, so I'm on with Facebook support trying to get that figured.
Fair enough. Well, anyways, Greg, I do appreciate you joining, talking with me. Cool dude. I'm in your group all the time, but I will post a link to the Facebook group down in the description. So if you guys do have Facebook, you want to join up, go ahead. Greg, you also have, you were doing a YouTube channel as well, right, for the group?
Yeah.
Did that, is that going anywhere, or what are you guys still doing with that, or no?
We're not. We've kind of given up on content because there's like 100 FGO YouTubers. So I figure
that's true.
I figure I'm just gonna shout out some YouTubers there, put some cool videos and playlists, see if people like that.
All right, cool, fair enough. But I will link to the Facebook group down below, and yeah, keep up the good work, man. I appreciate you joining.
Thanks for having me.
All right, take care, everyone. Peace.
Bye, guys.